Suiting up the troops with snakeskin. Here's your look at the new Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series Python Patrol Cobra Viper. This Cobra Viper comes ready for action, with multiple points of articulation for high posability and 5 character-inspired accessories. And with custom artwork by Anthony Petrie, the G.I. Joe Classified Series Cobra Viper package will make a mark on shelves. Not that you guys know this, but the Cobra Viper is my all-time favorite design Cobra Trooper. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that their helmets looked a lot like Cobra Commanders, because you got to think, before that, Cobra infantry consisted of troopers and officers that wore masks across their mouths. They were doing that social distancing long before there was a problem with the world. Then they were also, of course, wearing the blue helmets. And then all of a sudden, we got the Cobra Vipers for Arise, Serpentor, Arise, and I fell in love with the design ever since. In fact, it may have actually been the very first thing that I bought more than one of. I think I may, at that point, even as a kid, had 2 or 3 Vipers as part of Cobra's infantry. Now, I didn't get the chance, though, to get the Classified Series Viper. I don't really know why. Being such a big fan of this design, why wouldn't I have jumped on that right away? It could have just been the availability of the figure at the time. Still do want to track down maybe 1 of those, 2 of those. Okay, maybe about 5 of those. But I do like the idea that, similar to the original Real American Hero Cobra Viper, that they, of course, re-decoed them now to sport the Python Patrol outfit. It's pretty much the same outfit as what we got before, just now done with the Python skin. I'd like to thank the folks over at Hasbro that did provide this sample, the Classified Series Python Patrol Viper. And we can have a look in this video. We're going to now start things off, get the show underway. We're going to grab the tape measure just to see how tall the figure stands. Python Patrol Viper stands 6 inches in height, or the figure's about 15 centimeters tall. Sticking with more snakes for size comparisons, let's bring in a couple that we've already had a look at. Here's what the Cobra Viper looks like alongside the Crocmaster. Crocmaster is quite a lot taller, quite a lot bigger and muscular. I love the idea, again, I know I had already said this in an earlier review, the fact that the bodies don't seem shared. They probably have used some of the molds, at least the ones that they can, but for all the cases that I've seen so far, the Classified Series bodies are all unique to one another. I also just recently had a look at Storm Shadow. Love the look of that figure. I'm just going to actually move him forward just a little bit so you can actually see how different of a height there is. Cobra Viper does dwarf than Storm Shadow. I didn't realize he was so small. I probably shouldn't have said that so loud. But he is certainly a lot smaller. And even though I did say I was going to stick with snakes, let's actually just bring in Spirit as well. The reason why I'm bringing Spirit in is because Spirit was actually taller than Storm Shadow. And because of that, he's actually closer in height to the Cobra Viper. For the Python Patrol's accessories, he comes included with a backpack. He comes included with a rifle, an assault rifle, and he comes included with a small pistol. And of course, he comes included with the goggles. My biggest issue with this figure. But first things first, let's actually have a look at the backpack. The backpack here is all molded in black plastic, and while you probably could tell me that it is hollow, certainly looking at the back side of it, at least it is finished. Some of the earlier G.I. Joe figures, the smaller 4-inch scale, I think a lot of the 25th anniversary, now that I think about it, had a lot of hollow backpacks. They did still have the peg, because of course that has to be the thing that attaches onto the torso, but a lot of this was just barren wasteland, just completely empty. At least this is a fully molded, fully seamless looking backpack. It's not without fault, though. Unfortunately, like a couple of the gas capsules you can see right here, not only the way they've painted it has bled a bit onto the black backpack, but it also seems like the yellow probably could have used another coat. As you can see, some of the black bleeding of the plastic coming straight through. Other than that, it does look nice. It does have a little thing of rope on the side. It isn't removable. It does also have an elevated Cobra emblem and a couple of little pockets there on the side, none of which, of course, can be opened up. This can fit onto, anyone guess? His back. Yes. Backpack goes onto the back. There's a hole just on the back here. Just plug it in place like that. On to the other things that come included with the figure. He comes with a small little pistol. Quite an advanced little firearm that he can carry around either in his hands or he can also holster on the side of his leg. It's once again just only molded in black plastic. Maybe they could have put like a little red laser sight or something on the end of it. I don't know. Other than that, it's a nice looking handgun. I just sort of wish sometimes they could add a little bit of paint to it. Like I said, as promised, it can either fit into either one of his hands. His hands are actually already designed to have trigger fingers, or what you can also do as well is you can holster that on the side of his leg. Super, super easy, just like that. The other thing the figure comes included with, as I put him down right now, he comes included with an assault rifle. I gotta say I'm a bit disappointed with the assault rifle, at least the one that they decided to choose. Well, it does look good, and it does fit well in his hand, somewhat well in his hand. The original Cobra Viper, I think, had an RDT assault rifle, a really notable look. It was one of my favorite. I mean, it's funny enough that I'm saying, like, the Cobra Viper is my favorite design trooper. The RDT assault rifle that it also carried around with it was my favorite design rifle as well. The thing about it, though, is the original one would have been gray. And then when it came over, when it was changed over to Python Patrol, they literally just took the same casting and did it instead in black plastic. I mean, like, this looks okay, but I think to throw back to the original Python Patrol, and even before that, the original Cobra Viper, I would have loved to see them reuse to some extent that mold. They could have tweaked it a little bit. I mean, I guess you could say this is a tweaked version of it, but it certainly doesn't look as good as the original. It does have a removable magazine. This was something that I already added to it. There we go. Just attaches like so. It doesn't have any bullets or anything like that, but it just slides into the chamber underneath the assault rifle. There is no place really that it can be housed on the figure other than putting it into his arms. Like, there's no peg or anything on the side. There's no clip. Nothing really that, even if you could anyways, these pockets sticking out the side of the backpack certainly would wreak havoc when it comes to displaying this. So what we're going to do instead, this fits into his hand. And you sort of have to take the thumb first, because at least the plastic is soft enough. It's pretty easy to do. Just pull the thumb slightly away from the palm, not too far, and then just slip this around the handle, and then get the rest of the hand in there. Just like that. And then because the figure does have a double bend in the elbow, you can then bring the arm around. Let's try that again. Get this back into his hand, get it into the handle here. It's always this type of handle. I'm trying to think, there was a G.I. Joe member that had this. Was it Rampart? Somebody will tell me down below in the comment section. Anyways, though, you can take because of the double hinge on the elbow after all, you can actually take both hands and attach them. The original assault rifle that came packaged with the Real American Hero Viper also would have done the same thing, but I still think the original one was a little bit cooler than this. I'm probably going to get myself maybe another one of these at least. Okay, maybe another couple of these. And I think I will just likely display them all like this. I just like the idea of having Cobra Troopers on the ready, armed and ready to go. The last thing the Cobra Viper comes included with is a pair of goggles. Now, the thing about the goggles, this wasn't an issue at all with the original Cobra Viper back in the 80s, because that Viper already had these molded as part of the helmet. For some reason, they just decided to have the goggles separate. This was something that I think started with the 25th anniversary Viper and has carried on since. These goggles are fine because, I mean, the idea that completes the look of the Cobra Viper, you're just literally putting on top of the helmet. But because it doesn't go down on top of the visor anyways, it always is going to stay here. I would have not even had this as a separate piece. It would certainly have been different if this could have come down on top of the visor. It was always a question I asked, even as a kid. If he has a visor for his helmet, where would the goggles go if he needed them? Actually, they were just more cosmetic. I think they were more cosmetic than anything else. But it just sort of sits on the helmet. It doesn't sit well enough, at least. You sort of just have to rest on the helmet and just pray that you don't knock the figure anyway. Because the moment you knock it, I had to pull that off for a second. The moment you knock it, a lot of times these goggles fall straight off. Yeah, you see what I mean? I mean, it's nice that there are things that are removable on these figures. I mean, if you're going to have removable knives, removable guns, removable, obviously, things on the sides of their pockets and things like that, that's good. That's fine. But I think like things like goggles, I mean, we're not going to use it for anything else other than this Cobra Viper. I think they could have easily just molded it in place. And the original 25th anniversary Viper had the same problem. I had a couple of those Vipers. One of them I lost the goggles to, and I've never been able to find it since. Yeah, so this just literally, like, it just sits just on the top of the helmet. There's not even a groove either, really, where the goggles sit against it. It's sort of like a ledge right underneath it. But it only goes so far down anyways because of the diameter of the strap. I mean, without it, it does look, well, it doesn't look as much like a Viper to me. I guess you could easily go away and have displayed without it, but I mean, for me, definitely finished the look nicely. And it looks more like the classic Viper. I don't want to use the word, I don't want to bring out the G word, glue. I did actually already mention it, but I think I'm probably just going to glue it. Does that make me less of a collector to do that? Just because, like, if not, there's always a potential risk that this is going to just fall off. I'm going to lose it. The cat's going to take off with it. I'm never going to find it again. I'm just going to glue it. I'm just going to glue it. If that makes me less of a collector, then I apologize. I'm just going to glue the goggles and call it a day. I'm going to leave these. I'm going to take these off, at least for the time being. I'm going to remove the assault rifle for the time being. I'm going to remove also the backpack. Yes, for the time being. Getting, though, a closer look at the Cobra Viper, minus the goggles, of course. Now, the design and the mold, I would imagine, is just the same as what we got before with the Classified Series Viper, because I don't have one that I could put right here. I don't have that comparison I can make. This one I would imagine, just used the same exact mold and then just colored it accordingly to the way the Python Patrol Viper looked from back in the day. They did make one change, though. The original Cobra Viper does have the pattern work of the Python there on its sleeves, but I think it also had it also on the vest. They decided instead to do away with that pattern work and actually just left it only on the sleeves. They didn't add it anywhere here. Instead, they just go with a neutral gray instead. Just above that, there's a couple of gas capsules, and just above that, there's a Cobra Emblem. With, again, like the gray of the light and the dark, and the yellow that they add, also very familiar to the original Python Patrol Viper. And I guess really looking at it, if they're going to modernize the look of the Python Patrol Viper, maybe it isn't that bad of a deal that they didn't put the Python markings here either. Maybe it would be nice to kind of keep it exclusive to the sleeves. So I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing. The one thing I have problems with the figure outside of the goggles is the way they have attached the belt. The vest that it wears, actually they've attached the belt as part of it. So when you are moving like the vest, everything goes together. It sort of does look like it is only just one piece. And again, the way they've painted the yellow looks a little more messier. And some of the places you can kind of see, again, some of the bleed shining through or seeping through. Has a little Cobra emblem there on several different pockets all around the outer diameter, I guess, of his body. And it looks nice. But I wonder if they could have just cut the vest higher up, maybe cut the line right here, left a space, and then had the belt as part of the lower half. Because then it would look like two halves, or at least layers of something. It looks, because the belt is attached to the vest, it just looks like it's one continuous piece, a shell over top of an existing body. The yellow is nicely handled here on the sides. Part of me feels like the yellow should go all the way around like this and not have the yellow on the inside. I'd have to go back and double check that again, because I feel like it looks a little disjointed having the yellow on the inside, but then keeping in mind, really, I guess I have to also think of the fact that there's the pockets there, but I really feel like the yellow should be continuation down and not have the yellow on the inside. Again, I'll have to go back and just double check it. But yeah, just a nice looking figure. You've got the decent looking sculpted boots. So like the coils of the snake represented here on the front of the boots. It doesn't seem like there's any paint. It looks like it's probably just the plastic that they ended up using. Yeah, overall, it's a nice looking figure. The only thing I would probably say just outside the vest is the thing for me is the goggles. Like, the goggles complete the look of the Viper. To have it without the goggles, it just doesn't look as much like a Viper to me. And for me, I'm just going to glue it. I'm just going to glue these goggles in place. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Going to leave them off, at least for right now, as we have a look at the figure's articulation. Viper does have the head that rotates all the way around. It is on a ball joint, after all. The head does look down. Only just a little bit, though. It does look up a lot more, though. And you can also rock it back and forth as well. The shoulders do come out, I would say, comfortably at a 90-degree angle bend. I guess you could say that's a comfortable. I didn't struggle at all doing that. Arms rotate all the way around. He has a swivel at the bicep. He has a double hinge on the elbow. The figure's hands rotate all the way around, and there's also a hinge back and forth on those. And then again, like looking at the torso is all one piece. I have to wonder what that would have looked like if they had just cut that a little higher up. Had a nice little separation of space, just right there, where it would have gone a little bit further in. This would have been bulkier, this would have been a little leaner, and then would have went for the more chunkier looking belt, instead of having it all one piece. Figure, though, does, like I said, have the ball joint, so you can rotate that all the way around. The figure does have a leg splits. Just be careful that, of course, you've got the firearm holstered on the side there. You can bring the legs forward, you can bring the legs back. All the same as all the other Classified Series figures that we looked at already. 3/4 of the way up the thigh, there's a swivel cut. So yeah, you can rotate the leg all the way around. Figure does have a double hinge on the knee. There is articulation more to the way that the boot's been assembled in the factory, so that does allow some additional articulation. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do this in real life. That would snap the poor person's calf, but you can do that certainly here in the figure. Hinge back and forth on the feet, and there's also a nice ankle rocker too. The more I look at Python Patrol Viper, a couple of thoughts come to my mind, one of which I really wish I still had the Real American Hero ones. I had a Python Patrol Viper. I had of course, like I already mentioned, a couple of the original Vipers. I really wish I still had those. Sort of seller's remorse. You always sell these things that you have as a kid. I had some really cool toys as a kid, and I sold them. And I sold them for next to nothing. And then, of course, now to buy them afterwards, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But I do like the look of Python Patrol Viper. It sort of carries on the same tradition as what the original Real American Hero Python Patrol Viper has, taking the original initial mold, adding, of course, the pallets of the snake, the little textile pattern work that they did also on the sides of his arm. Doesn't have it here, like the original toy did have, but I think it replicates the look pretty close. I just wish, though, the goggles were part of the helmet instead of having it as a separate piece. That's all. Just doing a little bit of searching over on Google, and I looked up the original Python Patrol Viper from back in the day. Turns out it does have the yellow stripes on the insides of his thighs, so that's not wrong. But it also did have a continuation of that same yellow on the outside of the thighs. So perhaps that may have been one point that Hasbro did leave off with their release of the new classified series Python Patrol Viper, is they didn't continue on the yellow all the way down to the knee pads. Something that does look a little out of place, because it almost looks as if the leg was twisted the wrong way and that you have to line everything up. But actually, in actual fact, the yellow was on the inside of the thighs as well as the outside as well. I think this is a nice modernized take of a Python Patrol Viper. Looking at this and remembering the one I had in my collection when I was a kid, it looks very much like an oversized version of that same toy. Of course, this now benefits from having brand new articulation. The thing, unfortunately, it doesn't benefit from having is the same assault rifle that was packed with the original toy. I get the idea that, of course, they want to update and modernize some of the firearms that the Cobra Troopers are packing. But still, it would have been nice to somehow, I don't know, take that same design of the original assault rifle that those Vipers had back in the day. Maybe just find a different way to update those. So it would have been a nice throwback to the original toy. Other than that, though, I really like the look of the Cobra Viper here. Having already the original one when I was a kid brings back a lot of memories now, seeing this as a little bit bigger, well, a lot bigger of a figure with much better articulation. Still, though, I don't like the goggles. I didn't like the goggles when I had the 25th anniversary Viper, which I still have somewhere. And I don't like the way they're doing it also here with the classified series. Not everything has to be removable on these figures. Not everything has to be separate accessories. Because really, when you think of it anyways, what's a Cobra Viper going to be doing with goggles? Is he going to be putting it over top of his visor? How does that make any sense? The visor is already protecting your face. Why would you be putting goggles in front of it anyways? That if that's the case, and you're not going to be using it for any other Cobra Trooper, then just glue it in place, or just have it as part of a molded head sculpt and a molded helmet, and just leave it at that. The other one, like the 25th anniversary Viper, I've already lost one of them because it was a separate piece, and I certainly don't want to lose it when it comes to the classified series Python Patrol. I'm just going to ultimately glue it in place. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some glue. Just a little dollop that's all you really need. You don't have to put a whole lot of glue. Let's not make a big mess of this, but just a little bit of, just a drop of glue is more than enough, I think, to keep the goggles in place. It'll still look like it was a separate piece, but it's not going to be something that's going to fall off, and it's certainly not something that's going to get lost. A big thank you, though, to the folks over at Hasbro that did provide the sample of the Python Patrol Viper, Cobra Viper, that we could have a look at in this video. For your video question for today, I told you what my favorite Viper was from the Cobra Infantry. What's your favorite Cobra Trooper? I also like the Strato Viper, too. Something about that one. I had the Jets growing up as a kid. Something about the Strato Viper was always really cool, too. Something around the time period of Arise, Serpentor, Arise had some of my favorite Cobra Troopers. But what's your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, and you haven't already done so, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button down below. FYI, just at the very end of this video, too, will be popping up a playlist of all the other G.I. Joe classified series figures that I've looked at over the years. If you did want to go back and hear my opinions on what the line was when I was looking at those figures back in the day, check out the playlist. It'll be popping up at the very end of this video. And even though we have wrapped up the review for the Python Patrol Viper, there will be still more reviews coming your way of Cobra and G.I. Joe from the new Hasbro G.I. Joe classified series. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.